Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Planning and Licensing on this very warm, sunny day in 9th of July. Apologies, Duncan.
We're just going to record the apologies of Councillor Williamson this evening.
Wonderful, wonderful, thank you. I've declared an interest. It makes it sound as like it's going to be really boring, doesn't it? Anyone else have any interests as and when they might pop in to the framework? They can be announced on the way. I don't think we've got any meeting management issues, do we? No? Yes?
No.
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 That was a yes face there, Duncan.
Yeah.
Right. Minutes, draft minutes then for the 25th of June. Apparently, Joanna does have. Oh, so it's matters arising. Yes, okay. Okay. So I presume we have looked at the minutes, and I'm happy to propose them. Seconder?
I'll second.
Wonderful. Thank you. All in favour of the minutes? That's yes, everybody. Wonderful. Thank you. Matters arising.
Just to prove I've actually read them.
Yeah.
It's and we did say this, so the minutes are absolutely accurate. It's the application 4 on the 1 Pentar Avenue application, the Old Fistral Bay. And we raised a question in it, which is saying we'd like further clarification regarding the community infrastructure levy. Actually, I had a query about from the Pentar Residents Association, so I did a bit of investigation, and SIL isn't applicable for this. This is an old application. I think they changed it in 2017. They had a Section 106 agreement, and it was pretty minimal contribution for affordable housing. Can I say absolutely there were no affordable houses or
affordable apartments. No.
There is a myth that there isn't. A magnificent £350,000 is what they were going to charge, and they split it into 4 payments. So I assume the first 85,000 odd was paid when they started to build, because that's when they were supposed to pay it.
Right.
What we don't know is what's the. It'll be interesting to see what Cornwall Council say. I mean, no doubt they'll start off being very patronising, saying it's Section 106, not SIL. But it'd be interesting to hear what they're going to say about the other 200 and something thousand pounds that they're owed.
So have you put in a query about that?
No, I haven't. I was going to bring it up today. I don't know what we want to do. Do we want to say we appreciate now it's Section 106? Same question. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, I can go back to the officer.
Yeah, if you could, then Duncan, that would be wonderful. That. Yes, yeah. Please.
So they can omit the patronising sentence.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
As you're asking me to do something.
Oh yes.
As you're asking me to do something,
you
have a proposer and a seconder.
Yeah.
I propose that Duncan goes back and makes it clear that we understand that it's a Section 106 agreement, not SIL. That is what we would like more information on.
Yeah. Nick seconded that. All in vote on that. Thank you. Oh, was that not Margaret? Yeah. Yeah. Everyone okay on that one. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, open session for electors from Newquay. We don't have anybody in the balcony area at the moment. Have we got any written questions?
No, we have no written questions. I was hoping that Lisa and Ellie from Broken Wave were going to attend this evening. They obviously haven't, so we'll just deal with that application, I guess.
Well, we can readjust it. Maybe if they come late, they could have got held up in car park or something. Right, active consultations, 7.I, government planning consultations and working papers. So planning consultations. Has everyone been away and did they read it? Because it was a bit of a tomb, wasn't it? On 8 pages of intenseness. To give feedback. When's the deadline for the feedback to be in?
So the reform of planning committees, which I gather there's some concern about, that's the 27th of July. So
Right.
we actually do have a meeting on the 23rd.
Right, okay.
So potentially that could be carried forward.
Yeah.
There was a couple of working papers, a technical consultation on improving transparency. I don't know if that was something that you had decided that you were interested in. It doesn't particularly sound like it. And then the other two, there was another working paper, which obviously wouldn't, these have all come out at the same time, but we aren't being asked for our opinion on that. That's to do with site thresholds. My understanding of that was that they're looking, at the moment, you have a small and large development. They wanted to, and the small is up to 9. Anything above 9, so 10 to 5,000, is a large development. Somebody in their wisdom decided it might be good to have a medium one, so 10 to 49. And I think that's what's included in that. But that's a working paper.
Yeah.
We aren't being asked to respond to that. And then the other two are to do with biodiversity, net gain.
Slightly more dramatic than that, because this is part of the government's idea of speeding up developments, which doesn't apply in Cornwall. They're saying there are too many things being called to committee. You don't have enough delegated permissions. Well, if you actually look at the figures, it's 98% has gone through delegated. What this is saying is that we will no longer be able to call to committee. The Cornwall councillor or this council will no longer be able to object to anything less than 9, and you've got a really poor chance of getting anything less than 50. You disagree with me, Duncan, because that's how I'm reading it.
Is that the site thresholds, or is that reform of planning committees, the consultation?
No, this is it. No, it's got it on.
I'm looking at the paper Government Planning Consultation and Working Papers, and it's a statement by Cornwall Council, I assume, which is the paper I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And they're saying, I don't know which of those it is, but they're saying they don't think it's necessary. But what it actually means is that we will no longer be able to object on anything. It will not go to committee.
Yeah.
It'd be extremely unlikely to go to committee if it's less than 50, is it? And you've got to go through a gateway case. So if we have a mammoth development of more than 50 units, the Hotel Bristol would have qualified for that. You go through a gateway test and they decide whether you can or can't call it in. So effectively, our ability to actually hear anything we don't like at committee and the ability of the Cornwall councillors to call them in will go.
Yeah.
And that is really very serious. It will mean that the Cornwall councillors will have to do a lot more talking to the officers, because the officers are now going to be the deciders, not us mere councillors or mere committee members. And I think this is a real retrograde step that isn't necessary in Cornwall. But
well, I mean, especially in Cornwall, isn't it, with the amount of apartments that are being built. So I will happily
supply is somebody going to coordinate comments? Are we sending them into Duncan or what? Ready for next meeting?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the one that you're referring to is the technical consultation reform of planning committees.
Well, they're actually going to wipe them out, because I can see no reason. The subcommittees. I mean, the subcommittee on Monday was 2 single developments. Yeah. I think the single committees, the subcommittees, will disappear, and we will be left with a big strategic committee, which won't get that many applications.
No.
So I mean, I'm thinking that out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planning consultations and working papers that were on that list, I'm thinking that there's only the one, which is the reform of planning committees, which I think is the one that that we would perhaps, unless you want to respond to the biodiversity net gain changes, But I mean, that all seems a little bit niche and probably beyond our sort of realm of expertise. But the reform of planning committee seems something that we would be very immediately affected by.
You know, it means that, well, I don't know what happens if when we turn down planning applications, really, as to that we're not happy about things, then it's just going to be the office. It's just going to be the officer.
We don't do it very often.
No, but it's just going to come down to an officer then, and and we don't always agree with the officer, but we're just not going to have any comeback on that at all. That is because it won't be called into committee.
We have to work a lot closer with the officer. I mean, I would expect your local Cornwall council to listen to what you're saying, and then and that's one of the reasons I always abstain in my own division, because it's sort of give me that bit of independence. And then take the planning officer by the be nice to the planning officer and see if you can argue your case, because at the end of the day, there's going to be they are so concerned about the blockages on development, which doesn't apply in Cornwall, but we're being hit by the same rules. So it's worth reading that paper and making your comments into because they've actually summarised it, haven't they, Duncan?
Yes, the first page is a summary.
So I was just going to say, you do have, bear in mind that the deadline for that is the 27th.
So
you do have time to 2 weeks in which to for us to amalgamate some comments and maybe agree something on our meeting of the 23rd.
Yes. So can we put it out then that you have a read of this if we don't, and please email Duncan within the next week, if I can say that, so that it gives us time. Then Duncan then can draw up a response that we can then pass at the next meeting. Is that okay?
I'll provide you all with a summary prior to the next meeting,
Karen.
just to an amalgamation of.
Can you include a deadline to prompt us as well, please?
Can I just?
Sure.
Thanks.
Karen.
Yes, could we agree that we are quite concerned about it now, and then come up with a response? Because, can we?
I think I want to make sure that everybody has read it, really, right. that there's a concern. And I think then at the next meeting, we can agree that it's a response, because then we'd have the comments that everybody's made, rather than maybe, just Joanna and myself that have read it. And because I'm not so confident.
From what I've briefly read and what Joanna has said, it's really concerning.
It is, and it's. Yes. Yeah. What is the point?
I think we're here to protect our environment and our land and everything else, and so if we're not...
I agree with that statement, if I may come in. I think the role of this committee will be even more important, because we're going to be the only ones who take the applications part. And we'll then need to say to the Cornwall councillors, we need you to understand where we're coming from here. We so rarely object to anything. We object to something and it comes back and they say, well, we'll do this or we'll do that, or you're not right. And we accept that, usually go agree to disagree. We so rarely sort of have things that, no, we really do object. And I think that becomes very important. And we will need to say to the local Cornwall councillor, we want to talk to you about this one. Because we want you to talk to the officer, because I don't think there will be, well, I don't know, I'm assuming that we will not have a direct route to the officer who's dealing with it.
And of course, that's going to have time for sort of. I mean, you're know all about planning and stuff, but the other Cornwall councillors aren't, and so that has implications for them and their workload in terms of what we're suddenly expecting them to do in terms of having an extra input for communicating with Cornwall planning officers. So. And one of which we haven't seen, and because they can only make meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so probably unlikely to. Anyway, So I think if somebody can put just a sentence or two about down that, and then we can judge then that we've got a majority on that. And
I will email tomorrow. I will email something out to everybody asking for
your
input. Okay.
But if we can have it in sort of like a week, and Great, thank you. Do we need to propose that? Okay, so I propose that. Margaret seconded. All in favour? Yeah. Wonderful, thank you. Second one, the Narrowcliffe bus shelter. So, before we get onto the Narrowcliffe bus shelter, one thing I've noted driving in along Henver Road, you know the bus shelter opposite the Edgecombe Hotel, and opposite that, so outside the Edgecombe Hotel, there's an indent into the road which is meant to be a Beryl bike park. It's a bit bizarre because it's in the middle of the road. That's been taken over. Kilburn, yeah. Yeah, keep going, yes. So you see that, there's that there. Right, that is being used by the builders as a car parking space. So most times I come in during the day, there's a van parked on top of that cycle bay. So effectively it's in the road because the double yellow line goes round it. So I'm not sure who we report that to. Duncan, it'd be traffic enforcement, I suppose. But when it's dropped on the pavement, so effectively we're having all these vehicles parking on the pavement, which is a cycle track as well as a footpath, and then parking on top of the Beryl Bike Park too. Totally inappropriate. I've also noted the coaches parking outside the Beresford Hotel, which is now the narrow pinch point as well, which we were, you know, so, yeah. But I think that's the Edgecombe, isn't it, that's been demolished? Yeah, that used to be the Edgecombe. Yeah. No. I mean, obviously, it's a lot more further built than that. You know, a lot of it is there. But yeah, we need some traffic enforcement, please, on. You know, they should not be parking on the pavement there. That is their problem. Karen.
Chair?
Yeah, could I suggest that we have some, if it's a bike park, then they have the bike railings to attach the bikes to?
Yeah.
You know,
That's all right, yeah, I know,
It's obvious that it's a bike park.
Yeah, thank you. Sandy.
Chair, when I came into Newquay this morning, there was 2 coaches there, and the whole of that side was taken up with parked cars.
Yeah. Joanna?
Actually, returning to what we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Sandy. And I had a meeting today with Dan Rogerson where I said that we're not desperate. There are a lot of people not happy with phase 1 of the bike, but we're having to wait till the end of the summer to see if we get total gridlock because of the coaches and all the rest of it. This one is interesting because Sandy and I drove up and down the road and we saw a lot. This is what I call it's back to the Astor Court. It's what they call a floating bus stop, in the sense that you have to cross. It's a shared use footway. So the shelter is going to be back. If you've got the diagram of what they're proposing, the shelter is way back against the wall of the Astor Court.
So where that bus stops?
Yeah. And then the actual bus stops on the edge of the road, and you are required to go from the shelter across the bike track or the shared use to get onto the bus. Now, I think these things are we've got several of them, I think they are an accident waiting to happen. Interestingly, and I admit to my shame that I read the Telegraph. In the Sunday Telegraph, they had an article saying the government was instructing all local councils to pause these floating bus stops. I mentioned this in the meeting today, and they poo-pooed it and said, "Oh no, we've not heard anything like that." So but apparently the government has said to MPs, "We want you to stop doing this because it's dangerous, and because it is dangerous for disabled people." Yeah. And the one outside the Great Western, which is the one in the other consultation. So it's a bit odd, this one, because in effect, I think on the other side of the road it works beautifully. Because there's a bus stop on the other side of the road. The bus the bus lane doesn't go in because it's obviously it's got the wall behind road. It's sheltered, you get onto the bus, it's fine, no problem at all.
Duncan.
I just wanted to, sorry, just for a bit of clarification, floating bus stop.
Right.
Is there a
are several
definition of that? 'Cause I'm not
I've
aware of
been
this.
looking this up again. They're either called floating bus stops or bypass bus stops. And there's some peculiar long name about boundary and getting on. The effective idea is that the passengers have to cross a bike track
Yeah,
to get to the bus.
yeah.
And there's been a lot of complaint about these because, see, that one's fine. There's no bike track. The bike track is along behind, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that one is ideal. It's a good one. But the one on the other side is they're going to put, in a sense that it's there already because they haven't got a shelter. They've got a bus stop. And if people are queuing against the hedge, they walk forward to get the bus, and somebody could go crashing into them from the shared lane.
So
what they're going to do is they're going to put a shelter there, and then presumably divert the people who are on the shared use going down the edge of the pavement. And I think it's an accident waiting to happen.
especially, and we have it in the image here, a car parked on the square down there.
Yes.
So basically, walking down here has become a pinball machine.
Yeah.
Where you've got cyclists, and that can be two-way cycling, and the pavement, and we've got electric bikes and scooters and everything else, and people with electric buggies, and they're dodging, just down from here. You've got the sign. You've got to have people popping out from the bus shelter, which wouldn't be seen necessarily, and we've got all the building traffic down here parking on the pavement. And you're going to have a coordination of two buses on either side, and then people trying to cross the road. They're going to be popping out. It is making it extremely dangerous. I think.
I think
Yes.
if they move the shelter to against the pavement and have the bikes going behind,
That would be a
that
little
would
bit,
have
but
been
yes.
safe. But that's not what they're planning to do.
Yeah.
But this appears to be exactly what the Telegraph are telling me is
Yeah.
being told to stop doing.
Joe?
So one more thing about this particular area. If you swing around 180 degrees, Duncan, on the bend, the crossing point that was put in for that we can see there, the visibility is terrible there.
You're coming out the hedge.
Because
From
the
the
hedge is
Barrafield.
obstructing the view,
Yeah.
and people are stepping into the oncoming traffic without
Yeah,
realising
yeah.
that particular
yeah.
crossing there is very dangerous.
It's an accident waiting to happen. So this whole stretch of road now, from their adaptation, so to make it better, from really that corner all the way down to Great Western and the railway station, it's just making it real, in my mind, a whole set of accidents waiting to happen. The whole stretch. Coming up from Great Western, they've got the no turn right down past Edgecombe Avenue, on a sign, on a post too early. So we're having an awful lot of traffic turning right when they're not meant to be, because it just says in the road ahead only. Well, what does that mean? Because they've gone past the sign. It should be there on the next signpost as well, a no right turn. Is it Eulalia Road? By the Bristol. Yeah, Eulalia Road. Sorry, not Edgecombe Road. Yeah, that's the one before, isn't it? Yeah. So we need some sorting out here. It's not great, and we've got the season coming on. So in terms of, I'm proposing then a response that we are concerned then for a whole pile of things with that.
Yes, we've got one on the 23rd, our next meeting.
And then but that only gives Duncan one day to write them. Whereas if we've got our comments now, I think in this instance, then
I can do it the following day. That's not a problem.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Joanna, do you think we should raise this with the Common Council are concerned?
Yes, it's you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So if I can propose, then that again, if Duncan puts an email out, if we can get comments back to Duncan in a week, and then we can voice our concerns. But I think it's an opportunity to put in, and another thing on this stretch of road really, that the bus station, the new bus stop, this floating bus stop is just going to be adding to and. Yeah, Joe's seconding that. Yeah.
Does there have to be?
Well, the bus stop's there. It's putting the bus shelter in. So I supposedly, they're putting more bus shelters in. But very few people stand and wait for a bus from there into town. It's the elderly there in the apartments.
It's always been there.
Yeah.
So wherever there's a bus stop this side of the road, there is a bus stop generally opposite.
Yeah.
The next bus stop is right down the road.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
It's a long
and
way.
the other bus stop is up by Chester Road, so it's not
I
far.
Yeah,
think
but
it should stay there because
Yes.
We don't want to be removing bus
local
stops.
residents there.
Yeah.
doing it.
It's got the elderly.
It's just a question.
Yeah.
There are.
Yeah. Okay, so are we all right? Yeah. Are we all right voting on that then? Yeah.
I'm seconding on both.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Great. Awesome. Okay. Item 8, licensing applications. So the first one then is Broken Wave street trading variation. Now we saw this recently, that they wanted a position on Cheltenham Place, but apparently there's a cluttering of other people that are there. So they're wanting it to be moved slightly around the right of the post box and would therefore be on Bank Street instead of Cheltenham Place. This is due to service providers already pitched at that location. Do you think they have licences already there to be pitched in that location, Duncan?
Okay, so this is current permission is for Cheltenham Place, and what the applicant is wanting to do is just kind of come forward a little bit and sort of be more next to the post box. And I have gone down and had a conversation with them about it. The other aspect is that they've found, because they've only got a limited number of days that they're trading for, I think it's Wednesday to Friday, and they want to add the Saturday to that as well, because what they're finding is they've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and if they're getting a day rained off, that's sort of kind of 2/3 of their trading week's gone out the window. They're doing fantastic business down there. I probably shouldn't be championing their product, but they're doing ever so well. So it's just a small change in location, which I don't think should be too controversial. The problem is that we've got quite a lot of hair braiders in the town at this time of year. For those of you who don't know, they don't need a street trading consent because they are under the law considered to be delivering a service rather than selling a product. And that's the law is the law, I'm afraid. So we do see a number of hair braiders across the town, and I think the same goes for the henna tattoos. They are delivering a service, and then obviously we've got the peddlers or people who are trading under the legislation, very, very, very old legislation that allows people to sell as long as they are moving. And if you see a trader that's got wheels on their sort of trading unit, they are arguing that they are peddlers, sorry, excuse the pun, but they are peddlers and they are kind of moving along. how accurately they observe the time limits is another question. But yeah, it's quite a straightforward application in terms of adding a day and shifting their location slightly.
So, yeah, I mean, there's room in this space here. It's in front, it's by the post box. It's not interfering with super dry doorway. So, I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with. Has anybody else got a problem with this? Can I propose?
Do they remove it when they finish and it's not
Absolutely,
there?
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
standard condition
Yeah.
on for all street trading consents, and you have to ask for that to be removed if
I noticed the one
if you don't.
behind Poncho wants to be able to leave it.
That's right, and they have asked, they have come back and asked for that condition to be removed. Interestingly, Margaret, Mark Warren from BID has objected to that application, and it goes to the Street Trading Subcommittee on the 16th. He was the only objector. I think he objected because we have a high street for traders, is what he said.
And there was no windows to put their plugs in. They were all concrete.
Well, they've obviously got some arrangement around that, but
That's not. Yeah.
but yeah, it's that one's going to a Cornwall Council committee.
Okay, so I'm quite happy to propose that we've got we don't need a representation for this. Second, thank you, Sandy. All those in favour? Yes. Brilliant. Thank you.
Margaret, you're
Yeah, I had my hand up.
Yeah. It was there.
I think it's your projector.
I can see you.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing a Councillor Morris, you know.
There's too many of us tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
That you know,
Right,
you know when I'm not I'm doing it under duress on that one.
No, you
Okay.
don't have to do anything under duress.
Okay. Okay, I'm losing control of you. Stop it. Right. Right, so the next one's then the Ugly Butterfly at the Headland Hotel, and I'm dipping out for this one. So over to you, Sandy.
If you want me to give a brief overview of the application, I'm quite happy to.
This is the Ugly Butterfly, yes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. My qualified view is that this is quite a straightforward application. It's the description of the premises is a restaurant within the Headland Hotel. They are asking for permission for the sale of alcohol, regulated entertainment, and late night refreshment. Obviously, they are a reasonable distance from most residential properties. So in terms of noise, I don't think that there will be a huge issue, and obviously they're not going to want to upset their guests by making lots of noise with live or recorded music. Late night refreshment, as most of you will know, the sale of hot food and drink becomes a licensable activity from 11 p.m. at night to 5 o'clock in the morning. And they are looking at opening hours because it's a hotel. They tend to operate slightly differently to a restaurant or a bar. So their opening times are effectively midnight to midnight. They are open. They are effectively open constantly because they have guests in the hotel constantly, and they probably provide room service from the restaurant. I expect that they probably do it 24/7. I don't know, but this is quite a standard thing for restaurants within hotels. In terms of alcohol and the regulated entertainment, everything in the restaurant would be finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning. Again, I don't think that's unusual for a premises such as this, a restaurant within a hotel. So I believe it's quite a straightforward application. The timings and the conditions are the same as the premises license held by the hotel, which is one that goes back many years. So they're not asking for anything outside what the hotel will be doing. It's just that this is for the restaurant, or the new restaurant in there.
have I read this correctly? The Headland Hotel are basically franchising out their restaurant. And it looks to me that what they're doing is, if you go down to page 3 of something or other, it says a new premises license applied for the Restaurant de Mise on the same terms and condition as the hotel premises license. So they're basically saying that that restaurant is within the hotel and it's just a different, some sort of franchise arrangement.
You could conclude that. I haven't got anything to say that is exactly the case, but you could conclude that. Yeah.
So we're not having 2 rival restaurants and 2 rival bars, they're just one replacing the other.
Presumably it's going to be open to non-residents, though, not just...
I believe so, yeah. The opening times would be applicable to all members of the public.
Right.
Kelly?
I don't think there's any, unless anybody wants to say anything, I don't propose any representation on this one.
No.
I'm seconding it, Sandy.
Secondly.
All in favour?
Show of hands. Thank you very much.
That's as easy a licensing application as you ever look at.
Oh, I'm just back in the room.
Yes, it is. They've got a Michelin chef. They're going for their green award. They're going for sustainability awards for Headland, so they need to look around to you on that. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Next one. Update on the Rum Sailor at Prow Park, our favourite destination.
Right, do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Right. Okay, so obviously I wasn't at your last meeting, but you were made aware of some feedback from the applicant. I think that they were happy to take films off their list of licensable activities and various other concessions, but there's still a very large question about the premises plan, the premises plans that they've got, because they seem to have 2 sets of plans and they don't tie in with each other. They don't meet the regulations of the Licensing Act, and yeah, one of those plans actually includes other businesses, which is the strangest thing I've ever seen. It would be like it would be like a bar in town, including, it would be like the Concho Lounge, including, what is it, the Trespass shop or whatever it is next door. Which would mean then that Trespass could sell alcohol, which is, it's just very, very strange. No, this hasn't been explained at all. So there is a big problem with the plans there, and all this nonsense. All this this issue about the market that they refer to, which is a strange thing because markets have nothing to do with the Licensing Act whatsoever. I think there's a strong likelihood, having been in touch with the licensing manager to discuss our concerns, I'm now waiting for her to respond. This may well go to the licensing subcommittee, but I'm waiting to hear back about that. I thought it would have gone to the one on the 16th, but that agenda has been published and it's not on there. But I'm waiting for the licensing manager to come back to me. Basically, it may be a case of I have to kind of email you and say, right, there's a hearing and we need to go to it. And that might potentially be, we might need to sort that out before our next meeting.
Yeah, okay.
So you might, Chair and Vice Chair, you might be asked if you're available to attend at quite short notice. Okay? We'll just have to play it by ear.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have 8.4, the Barraboy street trading consent.
Are you available for you?
Oh.
I don't know when you can do it, Brother, so we'll just.
What did you say, the 16th?
Definitely not the 16th, because that agenda's been published.
So what's the one after that?
The 23rd, the day of our meeting.
I'm out that day.
Okay.
I'm here for planning, but I'm out the day.
So the 16th is the one that we should be attending, is it?
No.
No, it's not on it.
No, the
it's
23rd.
That's the that's a different committee. That's a street trading committee that's also taking place on that day. I think the street trading is at 10 o'clock and the licensing is at 11:30 start time.
Someone to
We-
the one on the 16th, the street trading one.
We haven't been asked to attend
No.
because we supported that application.
Right,
So
we
it's
don't
only
have
the it's only going to be the objector, the officer, and the committee.
Fair enough.
Okay.
23rd, how are you doing on the 23rd, Sandy?
I'm okay.
You're okay for that, so Sandy would be okay for the 23rd. I'm not doing well at this, am I? Just go me actually having a social life.
Yes, yeah, it will be on Teams. But I say the 23rd. I don't know.
We
That's
don't
their next available date. I don't know if that's the one
Yeah.
that they're going to choose to do, though.
Okay, we'll see. Brilliant. Right, now the Barraboys Street Trading Centre. So we met with them outside Marcus Hill on the offices, and we had a debate, and we sort of came up with a compromise, didn't we, with more detailed location with the licensing officer that they were going to take away. Boom, boom, boom. Bar. So they, oh gosh, I can't remember. Right. So, our mug shots. There we go. Right, brilliant. Okay. So originally they wanted to envisage putting the 3 metre square canopied barrow behind the sign here, facing the traffic, shall I put it that way, and said that they don't have queues because nobody wants to buy donuts and queue for donuts. Whereas I was like, I was not having it. Just as we were there, we had the Environment Services team rocked up in a truck with the mulch, so they reversed and they went up here and were there. And then the bin guys came along as well and parked outside in the bus lane to get there. And they were quite indignant. You know, we've been trading since the 1980s, and I was going, yeah, we're going to have a sea of Boardmasters kids that are going to come down here and not going to be able to move, and that people will queue over that, and let alone being sat here in a car and giving visibility. So he'd put on his visibility 2.5 metre visibility lines from highways. Highways hadn't actually expressed a concern about this, whereas I demonstrated in the road. Then really this sign here is not great, and the Oggy A-frame is not great there either, and I'd quite like that to get that moved. And the licensing lady went off to go and check to see if they're allowed to really to put that there. So as a compromise, basically I said about having it here, and that the canopy would then point that way. So if there is a queue, they'll be on the pavement, not blocking the two-way cycle traffic. I mean, it's not great. We then had the owner of Freddo's come over going, you're going to have a fast food place, and we're going, we can't do anything about that in planning. We've still got the EU legislation where it's open competition for food outlets, because it's not great that we've got something that's selling donuts, quite frankly, outside Newquay Town Council, but we have no say in that. So as a compromise then, I said about putting it here, further out, and then queuing that way, which seemed, they were still not happy, but that is what we put forward, and the licensing officer took that way as well to be okay with. Joanna.
So it sounds like we're going to have them there. We don't want them. We would rather own the land ourselves and put bollards around it. Did they explain how they were going to get the thing and the canopy on and off the road? Because that was the thing that screwed them up. So
that was it. So can you do the 180, Duncan, and do for the Offloading, right, okay, so where this enterprise vehicle is met is the loading bay. And they have a van with a tailgate, and they're going to get a pallet off it and pallet it over, a pallet truck, pallet over to its position. 8 o'clock in the morning at 6 o'clock in the evening. And I was going, well, I'm not happy with that because you're going contraflow with the traffic, crossing over.
6 o'clock is the worst time.
Yeah. Well, then it was, well, that's when they're trading. They say, I'll be a bit later than that. So I said that they can, because they can offload, that they can come down the bus lane, because that is for unloading as well, for deliveries. It's got a loading bay down there on the bus lane, and pull up, if we can scan back to the site again, brilliant. So they can pull up here and offload and unload there, and then go and take the van away. Which they'll have room to do that, because it's going to be put here for the time. The licensing lady was there. Yeah. Yeah, or can you scan up to Marcus Hill? Or there's they could drop off here.
Undertakers.
Outside the Undertakers.
But that's very rarely got a space on it.
Might have it 8 o'clock in the morning, but it won't have a 6 o'clock at night, that's for definite.
There wasn't anyone parked on it when we were there.
Get the trundle across the road. No wonder they were a bit vague about how they were going to get the trundle right.
They were quite.
Let them come back with a solution, and then I would. And so
Duncan.
I was still objecting. Let's go back to the committee and say, look, all of this is ridiculous.
Duncan?
So just to sort of clarify, when this first went to committee, they decided that they couldn't, to the Cornwall Council Street Trading Committee, they decided that they could not make a decision. So they deferred making their decision till after a site visit had taken place. Would have really helped if we'd actually had the cart there and could have seen it being dropped off and worked out, seen the logistics of it, but we didn't. But they've merely deferred their decision. So Sharon Bainan, the licensing manager, confirmed when I asked her that this will go back to committee following this site visit. So we will have to attend another hearing, and Cornwall councillors will make the decision as to whether it should or shouldn't. But I mean, it seems that there are still concerns about the location and the delivery and removal.
I mean, it's sort of, we've put a planter, there's a planter outside, hang on Nick, there's a planter outside down there at the moment to block feral coming back.
Yeah.
And of course, there's been a licensing there in the past, so the precedent's already been set. So, with... I don't know, Nick.
There may have been a licensing application there in the past, but the road markings and junctions weren't as diabolical as they are now. So I am still going to propose objection. Sorry.
So, I mean, there are no road markings now. That we're all meant to be slowing down with all the red brick that's meant to indicate, and slow down. But we've got two-way cycle lane there, as well as all the pedestrians, as well as, the buses which whip along on that lane, and cycles going the other way as well, and with the dangerous traffic on there. So, they weren't particularly happy with the situation when I was trying to make a compromise. And that was the compromise that I came up with. And of course, when we discussed it with the licensing officer, if there are any issues, then licensing can come along and close them down.
If you can get hold
Joanna?
I think what it sounds like is that you've done your level best to do a compromise to make this work. I'm as horrified as Councillor Morris is about what they're proposing to do. I think it's totally unsuitable. Well, it depends when we get the revised scheme, it will be going back to the committee. It doesn't mean to say the committee will pass it, because, I mean, the reason they deferred it was precisely because they were very, very vague about how they were going to get the
There
thing
is,
on.
just to clarify, there is no revised scheme. It's just everybody will be reporting back.
Yeah, so then
when we get
presumably
a date
there
to
will
the
be a
committee.
revised scheme, and we can look at that and then say whether we do or do not. We want to maintain our representation. Personally, I think it sounds an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
I think just from sort of my point of view, what I could do with is a vote as to whether you are still unsatisfied and that we go to committee with the same concerns that we did last time, which was the location and the delivery and removal, because I'm not certain when the date is going to be for this. And again, it's another one that could be on the 23rd.
So what I'll do is I'll propose then the revised citing, and how you feel about that then is up to you.
I don't think you can. We have
Okay.
to wait for them to come back with the revised plan.
But I don't think there is going to be. They're not going to come back because that was with the licensing officer out
no,
there.
they've got to come back
Then they're
with-
going to. That's the feedback I think from them to go to committee. I don't think it will come back to us.
Councillor Morris is going to make a recommendation.
I actually propose that we still uphold the rejection and still send somebody to that, send somebody there, because that is, I don't like that at all, because I'd be, even as a driver, you're going to have issues there, no matter where you put it there, because of the no junction lines.
So is there a second?
Seconder for that? Yeah, Karen.
I don't think that I don't think they are being asked to come back with a
No.
different plan. I really don't.
Well, they must be presenting something. They must be presenting something to the subcommittee, because the subcommittee said we have to defer this because you haven't given us the information. So someone is going to be presenting something.
I presume they are to the subcommittee. From
And I
what?
think we need to be there as saying, oh, that's great. I mean, I don't know until
But
we
that-
actually see it.
So that's really hard because, I mean, you know, Sandy and I stood there and we negotiated then that this alternative space was acceptable. So that's, you know, as a compromise,
Yeah, but
because
they didn't finalise how they were going to get the thing off and on, did they?
We don't know that either.
You made lots of helpful suggestions.
well,
I mean,
I mean,
you tried
but
very hard, but
I don't know.
Councillor Abnam's got a question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
I can see how you've gone to that meeting and you've come up with a compromise, but they haven't come back agreeing that compromise. And the site is wholly unacceptable, in my opinion, whichever way it's facing. It's a busy junction, and in the summer, it's an absolute nightmare.
Newquay's most dangerous junction.
It is going to be a catastrophe, whichever I know you came up with a compromise to try and help, but in my opinion, I think it's wholly unacceptable. Also, the businesses that are around there that are paying business rates and so on.
come into it. That's what it doesn't come
Yeah, unfortunately, just to clarify, there was, when we were within the EU, there was a directive that stated that you couldn't object to something on grounds of competition. When we left the EU, that was enshrined into British law.
Right. Well, that's another subject.
So I mean, okay. So I mean, I'm happy if so as Nick had. So Nick. Well, we had a proposer. We had Nick, and then seconder was Karen. So I mean, for voting on that, in terms of.
You're maintaining your objection.
despite being really helpful, despite doing their best.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't feel I can vote on that really. So. Yeah.
I'm going to abstain on.
Okay. That's all three of you abstaining,
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll see what happens with that.
I will let you know as soon as we've got a date for the committee. I will let you know, and we'll,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be thrashed out by the Cornwall councillors, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe Joanna can represent that then as being still in her division. Everywhere is in your division. Yes, Joanna.
I just raise an unconnected, well, it is connected vaguely, but I was at a meeting today where we were discussing the scheme for Cliff Road and the parking. And it was shown that one of the benefits, and I agree, I think it is a benefit, there's sort of this square that's sort of outside the Burger King. What they're doing is they are trying to make that into a space which could be used for the community and all sorts of things. And I took one look at it and said, it's going to be invaded by street traders if you do that. So they have now gone away and said, well, perhaps we ought to put bollards up to protect it. I thought, yes. So hopefully that is what is going to happen there, because wonderful site.
Yeah.
It's a great site, and
Yeah.
they didn't seem to think that the street traders would come in.
Yeah, in there. Yeah, yeah.
Space, I'm sure if they think it through properly, we could
Yeah.
be good at it.
Yeah.
What they want to do is to clear away all the unnecessary posts and thingies and make
Street
it
furniture.
a
Yeah, yeah.
nice big space, perfect for street trading.
Yeah. Wonderful. Right, okay, where have we got to? Previous planning application decisions, number 9. Duncan?
Right, yeah, you've just got the 1 5-day protocol, 54 Penmere Drive. 6 councillors responded to this protocol, all choosing to agree with the officer's recommendation to refuse. So we just need a vote to ratify that decision. Karen, for information, with the 5-day protocols and the non-material amendments that we have to do by email, we just have a vote here
On
just
process.
to say that the process has been followed. So it's not about the application itself, it's just to say, yes, we've made a decision outside the meeting, but we've followed the process
I
that
presume
is in
you're-
our terms of reference.
Presume you're proposing, Nick, are you? Yeah, right. Nick's proposing, seconder. Joanna's seconding.
Can I just say something?
Oh,
This
right,
is a
okay, no,
classic-
sorry.
This will be a classic where it will be down to the officer, not us.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's a thing, well, for the benefit of people who weren't here, it is a very small little bungalow, and it's, what, a 2-storey, 4-bedroom house they want to put on the edge, and this thing's an extension.
Yeah,
It's an interesting one.
yeah. And vote on that then? Brilliant. Okay.
And then the other one is there's an appeal notification. It is for 13 Beachview Close, which some of you will be very aware of that application. It's the ocean house. It's that ocean housing, that very small unit that they wanted to, although it's a householder application, they wanted to turn it into they were putting a 2-storey extension on it.
And obliterate the entire skyline.
Yeah, indeed. Right, okay. Yeah, so, I mean, previously we'd objected to the 13 Beachview Close 2-storey extension and alterations. We'd objected on a couple of occasions, most recently in May. Cornwall Council officer refused it. It's gone to appeal, but again, this is an appeal. We've seen a few of these now. We never used to see them. It's another one under the Householder Appeals Service, which means there is no opportunity for us to submit further
respond.
comment.
Yeah.
If it's a planning permission, we would have the opportunity to take part in the appeal. But as it's a householder application, we have the inspector just looks at the evidence that's been submitted so far.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I'll update you when we have when that's
Include
resolved,
what we've already said.
which will include
So we
what
didn't
we've
have much
already
to add
said.
to that anyway,
No,
so
and
it's
we did put in quite a robust objection. So
The clock has died. We've only been in talking 3.5 minutes.
You've been here for an hour. Yeah. Different time dimension. It is 7 o'clock. It's just another cunning ploy by Newquay Town Council to keep us here forever. Bring back the dinosaurs, I say.
Okay, I do have some batteries, but hey, we'll leave
Okay.
that till later.
Application 1, PA 25/04581, Blue Haven Guesthouse, 4 Godolphin Way, application for change of use from only the commercial use C1 to residential use C3 with no changes to building or site. Now it's interesting, those of you that have gone through the planning applications for today and all the and you noted when you did this as to the weekly decisions notice that their previous application, I think, had been withdrawn for this. So, so it's back under another number. I've made everyone go quiet.
Yeah, no,
Don't-
you totally have. Right, so we'll start off with where it is. Godolphin Way, just off Hendra Road there, and we'll come down and have a look at the property in question, which is this one here. The only comment that I've seen was from site allocations, their usual comment saying they don't want to make a comment. In May this year, an application for prior approval was submitted for a change of use. So that application had sought to confirm whether the works and the change of use could take place under permitted development rights. The answer from Cornwall Council was obviously no, because change of use is always a planning permission, so this is the planning permission. Or application for the planning permission. So in terms of the location plan, just to sort of kind of point out, as the red line application site, and it's quite a generous plot size. As per the description, the application is for a change of use from commercial use C1, which is covers guest houses, to a residential dwelling, use class C3, with no changes to the building or the site. We have a set of elevations. They don't really tell us, they aren't really that useful because there are no exterior changes to the building. And I'd just point out to councillors that you do have a policy in the neighbourhood plan, policy 1, safeguarding existing employment sites. Where planning permission is required, this plan supports the continued commercial use of retail, business or office units, and this is considered an employment site, believe it or not. We don't have any evidence or reference to the current use being no longer financially viable, which is what we'd normally look for.
Yeah, I mean, this was obviously a guest house. I doubt if they employed anybody ever. They would have lived in there and just done it as a residence.
Sandy, you actually knew something about it, don't you?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Sandy, go.
I spoke to these people in the course of the election, and I knocked on their door, and they said to me that they wanted to give up the guest house because it wasn't financially viable. And there is also a disabled person living there in a wheelchair. So that was their reason for wanting to give it up.
So, I mean, personally, I think, converting it from that to residential use, I don't have any issues with that. Joanna?
I think a couple of things. I think almost certainly they will start an Airbnb there because they've got the rooms and they've got the ensuite bathrooms. So I think this is one that's, when they say it's residential, letting a few rooms. I think in terms of our policy, is not one of the ones that's going to be preserved under this tilted balance thing. I mean, I think this is something we have to hammer out with Cornwall Council because they certainly let us down at the planning meeting. But if you look at that paper by, or the policies that stand up, you've got to have something like a design guide or something that actually supports the policy. And although it is against our policy, I just think with the tilted balance now, they're pushing for everything that can be residential. They're desperate to meet these numbers. I don't think our policy would stand up. So I've got no
Yeah.
problems with it either.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do think they will be letting out rooms, mind you, but as long as
Okay.
it's well managed.
Okay. Karen?
Yeah, I just was a bit concerned about the Airbnb scenario.
There's nothing we
If
can
there's a
do
lot-
about
If
that.
there's a lot of rooms in this property, what is there, if it's the same family that own it, and they're just using it as not a business, then, you know, what is their intention, really?
But I mean,
So
there's,
that-
there, you know, if they're not doing it as a guest house,
Yeah.
I mean, they could do effectively Airbnb as a guest house. So, and because it's small, then they wouldn't be paying business rates anyway.
No.
They'd get exclusion from that.
It's a matter of what we've got the power to make.
And we haven't got power over that. You
No,
know,
I
we're
don't
taking
know
their.
if it's the time to bring this up, but I would like to see a change in law so that Airbnbs have a change in use.
Yeah.
I think as I have done, but I would like us as a committee to do that. Can we do that? I know it's another subject.
I think probably not on this
No.
agenda. But I entirely agree with you on this. It's
Because if
but
you
it's
go-
been they've been talking for ages about having a register of Airbnb,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah, yeah.
that is still being progressed.
Yeah.
But if you're going from residential use to a business use, which is what an Airbnb is,
No, it isn't. No, that's the problem. It isn't. But it's counted, and I think Sandy,
It
am I
needs
right?
to
They're
be.
continuing to live on the Sandy. They're continuing to live on the property, aren't
Oh,
they?
yes.
So it's effective. It could be a genuine Airbnb in the sense you're letting out a spare
No,
room,
you're a spare room.
rather than something like the one in St John's
John's Road.
where
yeah.
you
Yeah.
never saw a resident.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
I just, sorry, I just don't know if we can try and sort of lobby to try and get this as a change from a council's point of view.
I think we need to think about that. I mean, is that going to actually go to community and tourism? Or
I
is it a
think
full
that
council decision,
this-
or is it going to...
This committee could certainly make a recommendation. I think it would need to be something that was on the agenda for the meeting, and we could and we certainly
We
can
can put
add
that
it.
on.
We
Yeah, yeah.
certainly can add it to
Yeah.
a future agenda.
Yeah.
But I mean, it might be a recommendation to full
Then
council.
to take it to
really,
full
because then
council
you're-
to support.
Then you're including the mayor in it, and
Yeah.
Can we,
Joe? Sorry.
Well,
can we propose to do that then? Can I make a...
Can we just get some other people want to make some points first? So, yeah. Joe?
So if you're going to do that, I think if I were in your position, I wanted to bring an item, I'd probably approach the town clerk, and seek his guidance on the right mechanisms to get that onto the agenda. That's probably, that would be my first step, but I don't know if that, you know.
I think we need to be very careful, you know, about what we do. True Airbnb, I know they're not, some of them aren't. A true Airbnb is I go on holiday and I let my house for 2 weeks. And I might rent somewhere in Copenhagen for 2 weeks. That was what Airbnb is. So I think before we do anything, we have to be really mindful about sort of just making a blanket, oh, we want to stop Airbnbs, or we don't want to, or you want it registered. But, you know, I think it's not something that we can just say at a meeting, oh, we'd like a recommendation, we want it to go to full council, because the true meaning of Airbnb is what I've just said, and I've used it several times all over the world, where I go into a family's home and I'm sleeping in the son's bedroom and all his bits and pieces are around. That's what Airbnb is.
Duncan?
Can I just say, I think Karen's idea could be put as a recommendation that the town council discusses whether or not they would like to proceed with something like that. And then if it's at a public meeting as well, if it's at a full council, then hopefully it would attract members of the public as well who may have opinions either way. But it would be the recommendation needn't be this is our position and this is what we want to do. It could be, let's have this, we recommend that full council discusses this with a view to, you know, if everybody was in agreement, contacting the MP and lobbying the MP.
And that's why I think we have to be very careful. There are a lot of people that we know who let their house for the summer through an Airbnb, and they move on to a caravan site. You know, it's not new. People have always done that here in Newquay. They'd move into the shed and they'd let the house. So I think we just need to be real.
Yes.
I'm just saying, but I don't think it's something we bring up at a planning meeting and go forward. I think it needs to be thought through really carefully, because what I'd be asking, Karen, is have any residents come to you and say, oh, we don't like Airbnbs, or, you know, so we need some evidence. We need some evidence. That's what I'm trying to say.
Come to this committee and said,
I'm sure they have,
Okay,
but I just think we need to be very
we've
careful.
still got quite a bit to do. Joe?
And I tend to agree about the complexities of the situation, which is why I am again recommending that we seek a view from the clerk on this.
Yeah. Joanna?
There's a difference, and I totally agree with you, Margaret. There's a difference between your traditional Airbnb, when you let out a spare house,
and a
you're
business,
spending the summer in the shed so that you can let your beer house out and make a fortune, which I'm absolutely 100% behind. And the individuals or the businesses that actually take advantage of the fact that there is no legislation that manages Airbnb. But I was under the impression that the government is working extremely slowly towards that. The last government was, there is supposed to be legislation for, first of all Airbnbs to actually be registered. And I think to give the council, the primary council, Cornwall Council, the right to produce legislation if they think it's necessary in certain places. So some of these villages, for instance, which are hollowed out in the winter because it's all second homes and they're letting them out and all of that. So effectively, I think we probably will be saying something. I think it may be too early. I think we have to wait for the government to move. Although talking to Noah would be a good first step. And I'm happy to talk to you.
Sent to a letter.
Yes, exactly. Asking where are we with this legislation? What's happening? Is the government?
I mean, because it's coming with the business, the rates that have come in for second home use, that it's based on that there's nobody on the electoral roll there. So again, with these so-called properties that are let out for Airbnbs, they'll be in the same position because there's nobody there, as opposed to somebody who is living there and letting out a room, they'll be registered there to vote. So that is a way of differentiating between that. So it could be a way to that, but I would suggest then actually you do speak to the town clerk to see is the best way to go forward on this. And he can recommend that. I'm just really keen.
Report back
Okay, if you want to do that and report back to us. It's just I'm really keen that, you know, that we're going off piece at the moment, and we've still got other planning applications and things to go to. So is that okay, Karen?
Yeah, that's fine. It was just I just thought I'd bring it up on this after being prompted by seeing this. I've got no objection with this because they're living there. That's the problem.
I don't think there is, just for clarification, I don't think there is anything in this application that says we don't want to be a guest house anymore, we want to live here and Airbnb the rest of it. I don't, that's in the,
we're just guessing.
That might be reading between the lines, but that isn't what they're saying. And that could be a very wrong assumption.
Joanna?
Can I make a proposal that we go no objection, while this does seem in conflict with our policy, whatever one it was, E1, in this case we feel it's appropriate for this to be turned into a residential home.
Yes.
And then if they start Airbnb, then we'll think about it again.
Seconder? Nick? Nick seconding. Vote on that? Yeah. Is everyone there for that? Okay, wonderful. Marvellous. Yes, no, I know it's ongoing nightmare, isn't it? Right, application 2, PA 25/04179, 12 Linden Crescent. Alterations to existing dwelling, including replacement of windows, doors, balustrades, along with associated modifications. Duncan.
Just bear with for a moment. Okay.
Can you just remind us where Linden Crescent is? Sorry.
Certainly. So, yeah, in my notes I've written not far from Trenance Gardens and the boating lake. Yeah, it is off Agar Road. If you have a look, this probably shows you better than the location plan. So you've got the boating lake, Rawley Lane, Agar Road, around that way. It's a
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, so location plan, yeah, and that's showing the dwelling and the garden within the application site. The existing site plan and the proposed site plan, these are actually two different documents that you're looking at here. This is the existing, this is the proposed.
Such a big change in the
point
footprint.
being that there is no change in the footprint.
Okay.
Okay, elevations.
It's so unusual, isn't it, when they say, oh, we're just going to do this and this, and then it's like, oh, it's a two-storey extension that's double the size of the house.
But the
Yeah,
footprint remains
this one,
the
there
same,
isn't.
It's one of the old-fashioned ones down the bottom of the Linden Crescent.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's about 1980s.
Right, so sorry, I didn't show you the actual house. I do apologise. I went to all the trouble of doing it. This house here with the sort of bluish grey car, that is number 12 Linden Crescent. Right, elevations then. So the east elevation, are you all right with it that size? I can make it bigger if you want. The east elevation is the rear. It's showing a metal balustrade at first floor level. That's to be replaced by a glass balustrade. And there are some changes to this fenestration at first floor level as well. I think you can see there. You've now got a glass balustrade and you've got an increase in the fenestration there. North side. Yeah, that just shows you effectively the side of the. That just shows you the side of the new balustrade, the glass balustrade.
Yep.
Slight change to a window there, but it's very tiny. You can see this house is one that really slopes away at the back. The south elevation again just shows you the change to the balcony, and
That it?
yeah, that's it basically.
Okay,
And the
I don't think we need to dwell on this.
facing, no changes at all.
Joe?
Tiny question about the additional window. So is that going to create any views?
Well, there is all. I mean,
It's on the north
you would,
elevation.
There's
there's
already
one there.
there.
you would
Yeah.
argue that there's already a window there, so it's not creating any new views. So I don't think that you could say there's loss of privacy.
Which side is it facing, that new window?
It's facing this
Yeah,
way, so
the neighbour
not
next door, so
directly
it's
at the
nothing,
neighbour,
yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
more towards the trees.
So-
I suppose that's the top of the boating lake. isn't it?
Proposer? Nick?
Yeah, I've looked at it. I actually know this house quite well. I've been down there 3 or 4 times. Yeah, it shows 1 at the front and obviously 2 at the back. I don't see a problem with it at all because it's
Are
all
you
at the
making a
back.
proposal,
Yeah,
Nick?
propose to support.
Okay, seconder? Margaret, thank you. Vote? Marvellous. Okay,
And
this is
I'll
what I
quote our neighbourhood plan policy on extensions. Yeah.
Surprised it made it here, in a way.
We have to just changing windows, it's a bit odd. Right, application 3. PA 25/04426, 100 Benithan Road, single story extension and garage conversion without compliance with condition 2 of decision notice. Yes. Yes. So yes, I think we need to keep it.
Two is almost always the plans. So just as
It's a slightly bigger
background, in
decking.
March, this committee gave its support to an application for a single-storey extension and garage conversion at this address. There were no other comments, local comments or from consultees. It was duly approved by Common Council. So we're now looking at a change to the approved plans. And we said about applications being surprised that they've come here, and this was another one that I was slightly surprised with. This is the house. Possibly because he's a Cornwall councillor, yes, indeed. So the easiest thing to do here is just to look at the floor plans, just to familiarise ourselves with the changes applied for. We don't need to look in too much depth. Sorry, let's get the right one up.
The street crews, weeds are getting a bit out of hand. Maybe you should put a bit of close back down.
Well, you know, you could report that to somebody if you were that way inclined. Right. So, okay, so can you spot the difference? So, the approved plan has a small, at the rear, has an area of decking in this sort of little infill site, and a new planning application has been required because the decking is now a little bit larger than it was. I think the applicant may have been slightly surprised to have a Cornwall councillor, a planning officer turn up on his doorstep. But that is the only change. So you've got a decking area with steps down. It is now extending slightly further into the back garden.
Joe?
Shall I propose an objection?
Can I just ask a question before we go?
Yeah,
Can we
do you wanna-
just see the location from the rear, just to make sure it's not overlooking anywhere behind? So is it proud? It's
It goes down to to the road. So yeah, no.
You might go to sit from Well Way or Beach Walk, maybe.
It's this one here, isn't it? So it's there. So it's from what it was. Is there's no change, and because the slope goes down this way. There's a wall here that conceals it from its neighbour. No, you don't. There's nothing.
So this is the back of the houses.
Yeah.
This is the back of these houses here.
Yeah.
So it does
And the neighbour
not look
hasn't
as if-
object to the original
No.
decking area, so it's just a bit bigger from what's there.
Any comments either
Yeah.
on this application?
Because it's changed from the existing. I mean, I'll withdraw my proposal. Somebody else can make a proposal. It's probably best if I let somebody else propose it.
Support, seconder for support. Sandy for second, so vote on that. Yeah,
It's quite
that's
a small
everybody.
change to the
It is a
existing
small
plan,
change, isn't it? With what we have come across. Right, application 5, PA 25/04423.
Four?
Application, oh, sorry. Missed one. Oh, yes, because it's by Northern Road again. Right, PA 25/04518. Proposed re-extension of conversions 36 Benithan Road, round the corner. Duncan.
It's kind of strange. No, it's not strange. Don't call it strange. You have this little sort of spur off Benithan, which is still Benithan, but it kind of goes around the back there. It's just like a sort of little kind of sort of dead end of properties down there.
The care home, my grandmother was in that care home for a while back in the 90s.
Let me take you to the street scene for it. So this is the property. One thing that you'll notice immediately about this property is that everybody else seems to have dormers.
Yeah.
We'll have a look first of all at the block plan. That was quite useful. it shows the let's see, it shows the footprint of the proposed rear extension. So you can see it's a reasonably generous plot size, and that sort of whitish hatched area is the footprint of the extension going backwards. They've got, so let's get those out of the way. They've got an existing and proposed site plan. I'll just make that slightly larger. Put that down there for a minute. It looks as if the existing rear extension, let's see, the existing is the one on your left as you're looking at it, and the proposed is the one on the right. It looks as if the existing rear extension is a single story with a flat roof. The rear extension clearly takes up.
It's a big extension.
It is a big extension. It is a big extension, and it clearly takes
And
up some of the
upstairs as
area
well.
that's given over to the lawn that you can see
Yeah.
on the existing. So really, they're the
And the
green
loft.
areas at the back of the rear of the property are largely going to be lost. There is some lawn remaining, but that large
they're
area of lawn
paving.
is largely going.
And they're
The
losing
proposed
them.
extension is perhaps double the size of the existing. It will benefit from a gable-ended pitch roof rather than being a flat roof. There is also a loft conversion included in this application, and we can see that there's sort of roof lights have been added so that they can have some light into this void space that they're going to use.
There is, so,
I have some elevations, yeah. I've got an existing and proposed.
Very mean little windows.
yes, yeah.
So if you're looking at the south elevation, the top left, that is the street-facing elevation. That's the existing, and that's the proposed. They're remodelling the front entrance, and it's perhaps worth we'll have a look at the floor plans just so that we understand that, because this drawing kind of flattens it out a little bit. That brown area there is the current front entrance, and obviously the proposed. We've got some roof lights, and you'll notice that the chimney is going. On the east side, so that's the top right drawing, you'll notice that that's your single story existing. The proposal is obviously considerably larger. There's a little bit of challenge. The size of the extension. The west elevation beneath that, again, it's really about the size. There's the addition of a small sort of kind of porthole window that's not there at the moment, and another roof light there. And then the north elevation is the rear of the building. So the existing shows you sort of on the right side of that drawing, you've got the flat roof extension, and the proposed, you can see this gable end of this quite long extension.
So if I can start off with comments on this, I sort of at face value there aren't issues, but I am concerned of overshadowing the care home to the west. There's a reason I think that it was a flat roof extension, because it wouldn't have done that, and by extending up to a gable roof, I'd have concerns then of overshadowing in the morning till midday on the care home next door.
Right, which is that one?
Yeah.
Is it worth us having another look at the overhead?
Yes, have another look at the satellite image.
Get an idea of their
Because
relationship to each other.
that will be the only building which has extended that far back in the rear. They're all aligned in the rear.
Right.
So that is the extension there. So it's going to be extending more with the gable end. So they've got a flat roof there, haven't they?
Is that buildings all the way back, or is there a courtyard or something in the care home? What is it?
I can't remember. It's a long time. I think it's got extension. They used to have a garden at the back, so. I mean, with the block plan that you started off with, it didn't have that though. They're all not that one. The one the site plan. Sorry, that one. You see, they've all got them in line. And by having that is a long way back, and then to have a pitch roof that is going to be casting shadow over next door. I don't know. I mean, that could be just me. I mean, you know what my thoughts are on bungalows being converted anyway. The other thing was that the expansion of the driveway, then can we have that as a permeable surface? And I think I noted that with South West Water that they hadn't put in a water runoff plan.
So what were you saying about the driveway? I didn't see
the driveway.
The
frontway driveway is being extended.
Let's have a look at the.
There we go. You see, that's being widened. And can we have that as a permeable surface, please? And we'd like the usual solar stuff as well. All that G2. And a bird box and things. I don't know. It's like there's nothing overlooking it. It just seems that, I mean, they've got all this as patio, and this is like covered patio area, and I think it doesn't help this pattern work that they've put in on SketchUp and in the design process by the architect. And just moving the shed around, that's okay. I just think it's going to be a bit overbearing at the back with the neighbours. Oh gosh, I'm just quite happily when there's a whole array of hands in the air. Right, Nick, first. You were first.
They have removed the entirety of their amenity space, so that's another one I want you to add. They've only got a little piddly bit there, left there at the.
Well, no, because
there's a lot bigger on the other side.
That's a patio. They've still got. This is still amenity space. It's just that they've got less grass.
But look at the size. Look at the size of the one on the other side. And look at the size of that now. There's hardly anything left.
We're not going to change.
I would still like to add that as onto the. You know, if we do no objection.
Okay, in terms of, well, if we get that far. Who was next? Joanna.
Right, I'm looking at the map of the location for the Cornwall Council mapping thing, and that is one stocking great building next to in 34, and it's not.
The care home. It is, right, okay. Fair enough. So that plan is out of date that they've used then, in other words. Interactive map. Here we go. Brilliant. I mean, if that's the case, and then then I'm talking tosh.
They have separate addresses in it.
Oh, that's so out of date, isn't it? Yeah. Right. Okay. What I've said is complete tosh. There we go. Karen.
I was just concerned though, because if there are windows on the right of number 34, and then they're going to extend.
So we can do that with if there's overlooking and things.
I was just thinking 34 if they've got windows on the right hand side.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. We don't know
that because they've not surveyed the neighbouring property. What we do know is that on that west side they aren't really putting any windows themselves.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be overlooking and there wouldn't be a loss of privacy, but those people in number 34, you're quite right, they might be losing their outlook. They might literally be looking at, because they'll be very, if we go back to that, it's there's a tiny distance, isn't there, between those?
Yeah.
So we could have a concern about the loss of outlook at number 34.
Okay.
We don't know. That might just be
Yeah.
a brick wall.
Yeah, we don't
We
know.
don't know.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Joe?
Yeah, I think it's just sensible to pose that as a question within our return.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I was going to say.
So, pending the other things with the front drive and the water and the G2, I'll propose no objection pending that there's no loss of outlook from number 34.
Are we actually saying that are we saying the plan they provided is inaccurate?
Well, no, the site plan is inaccurate, but their actual plans is for their building is
but
fine.
the site plan
Yeah.
is confusing because it
Yes.
doesn't seem to reflect what's
Yeah.
there.
Yes. So that can be noted that they've used a very out of date, well, the architects used a very out of date plan. Anyway,
Can we also ask a question in relation to Nick's point about the loss of amenity and whether whether they're satisfied that there's not enough amenity is being lost in order to
yeah.
tip that over?
They want, these days, for a new build, they want the amenity space to at least match the footprint of the property. There is a lot
that
of,
does.
there is, and this quite clearly does, there is a lot. I don't think that you could pin an objection on it, but we can we can certainly ask the question.
yeah. Okay.
I'd like to second the no objection.
Yeah.
So no objection subject to, basically.
Yeah. So, vote on that. Brilliant. Awesome. Do you want to like a comfort break? Oh, would we like a comfort break, people? Or we
Yes. How many have we got left? Yeah.
two?
We've got one
Two.
planning application.
Oh, one.
Can we just do a quick 5 minutes?
Two plans.
Two. We've got two. Yeah. Can we have a quick comfort break then? So if we can be back here at 1:45, that would be. from Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. And back we are again with application 5, PA 25/04423, land south of Longshore Apartments on Dane Road. Application for technical details consent, following permission in principle approval from back in June 2024. Duncan.
Okay. So, yeah, as as I think most of us in the room are aware, we looked at this application back in June 2023. We raised an objection to the application. It was a permission in principle application for the construction of up to 2 dwellings. We did argue a number of our landscape policies as well as the settlement boundary. Cornwall Council did refuse the application. It went to appeal, and the inspector allowed the appeal for various technical reasons, which we don't need to worry about now. The permission in principle has been granted. We are now looking at the second stage of this route to planning permission, which is the technical details. I'll just point out that the design and access statement tells us that the intended use of these 2 dwellings would be to provide the client and her mother with an appropriate home for retirement. So it's not intended to add further accommodation to the hotel. That's the point I was making there. So this is the land. This is the piece of land here. We'll have a look at the. So here you go. This is the Blue Line site, which goes all the way around this green area, bordered by Dane Road and King Edward Crescent. That's land owned by the applicant. I'm assuming that the blue line around the Harvest Moon is because they don't own those apartments. Yeah, they sort of own all of that, and the red line is obviously the application site that has been granted permission in principle for up to 2 dwellings. Proposed site plan. So, I think one thing that we can see, or in fact I should have pointed out actually with this, you can see that the access to this site is going to be via King Edward Crescent, next to the Harvest Moon Apartments there. And in fact I can show you that a little bit better.
That's still a bit of the one-way bit, aren't they? So every time they want to go into their property,
so yeah,
you've got to go all the way around the block.
That's sort of just kind of looking at this sort of green kind of scrubby area is where they're going to develop. That's the Harvest Moon Apartments. They're pretty grubby looking day in Newquay when they took this photograph.
Where is Newquay?
Yeah, exactly. And I also wanted to show you the access off King Edward Crescent as well. So that's that's King Edward Crescent, obviously Harvest Moon Apartments, that's the access, and that's the Longshore Apartments and the hotel behind, okay? So, back to the proposed site plan. So you've got plots 1 and plot 2. Just looking at the detail on these plans, sort of going left to right, you've got existing grassland to be retained with new tree planting. You've got a new Cornish hedgerow that's going to sit in between the 2 apartments. The dwellings themselves, which both benefit from photovoltaic panels, and both
green
have
roofs.
Green biodiverse roofs with sedum and wildflowers, and then you can see the access, the tarmac road access on the right side of the drawing there. We've got a comparison roadside view, which I thought was quite useful. If the photo will actually load, there we go. If the photo will actually load. So the top is as it is at the moment. The bottom is what it will look like with the 2 apartments. Okay.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry.
Can we go back to the schematic plan? I'm looking at the red line there because it doesn't look as if the access is within the red line side for the left-hand property.
Yeah. How do you get in the left-hand property? Because I presume that this is Dane Road here. It's not, no, Edward, Broken Edward. So it's like, so we got a tarmac access road here. And also, because with the slope and everything, I am really keen that this isn't tarmac, that these should be permeable surfaces, because it's just going to run down that road and down it, and it's going to, if we've got the overall plan again, if we can go back to that, and then maybe that will show where this bit of road is around here.
I mean, this is, yeah, I'll go back to the site location. Yeah,
so it's suggesting that the access is going to be from the car park on the left-hand one, doesn't it, from the above? Yeah. But you see, if they've got that access road to the right-hand one going down here, that water is going to run off straight down that hill, down King Edward Crescent. That is not suitable. So even though South West Water they've put in for infiltration plan for the roof, which South West Water have agreed, they haven't allowed for an impermeable surface. So this definitely needs to be a permeable surface, because it's going to increase the surface runoff down King Edward Crescent on that corner. Joanna?
Like Sandy, I talked to a few residents around here. The people below, is that what Harvest Moon? They're absolutely horrified by this. I noticed they haven't actually put in an objection. They probably don't know about it, but their big concern is that if you turn to the diagram 3 or figure 3 on the system design document, have you got that? If you go to what they are saying is that whole area that runs along behind there is unstable. It doesn't really show it on the on what we get. That's the one I was after, but it's not as. It's clearer on. It's clearer just how close it comes. The whole slope, and while you're saying optimistically it's going to be going down that road, I think it's going to be going straight down
into
slope.
that. Yeah.
And I don't see anything in here where they are trying to protect any negative effect on Harvest Moon apartments, because they think the wall, they've had problems with the wall before collapsing.
Right, the retaining wall behind. It is very steep there, yeah, absolutely. Do they show where the infiltration, where the soakaways are going to be, Duncan, on the plan? So this is the apartments, which there's got to be some sort of work on the retaining wall there, which I presume is not theirs. It's got to be. They're not saying anything about it, how they're treating this boundary to the south or north of the apartments. It looks like the access is going to be from the car park behind, and the mock-up that they did of the drawing looks like it's going to infect the building to the north, their outlook, because effectively it's just the other side. Can we have a look at from that mock-up that they did for the position, from what it looked like from there? So this is from above here. So this is the. But this looks a lot closer.
Because it's so steep there, that's the problem. The house is set down below.
Yeah.
Because there's such a slope there.
Yeah. Do they have window? I presume they have windows on the north side of those apartments. So they've got now the issue of outlook from going from behind, aren't they? Maybe.
Sorry, you mean that the Harvest Moon?
Yeah.
Right, just let me,
Because they're looking straight at the slope.
yeah, I think, I did have a, ooh, God,
So they
you
get
can't
up a
see
close
that.
view when it's collapsing.
Yes.
Nick?
Yeah,
That's
they-
coming out of I know that area very well because I go in and out of there very often. They're coming in from the access is through the Longshore Apartments area. So they do have windows facing out towards the sea.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that will get in the way.
So that, yeah, they're going to have an outlook. I mean, there isn't an entitlement to a view, but I am concerned that they've just got the width of that road, that so-called car park, that, yeah. Yes, well, that's what I said about the outlook. I don't know. It's sort of like, do you see what I mean? See, I don't think that's an accurate representation of where the placement that corresponds to the plans.
Can we get down to figure 10? That's it. Yeah. You see, it does not indicate just how steep that is.
And they've just got that as a fence there, hasn't it? But I presume it's a retaining wall from the black.
It's completely disappeared from that. It's just not there at all.
Yeah, it's just green.
They've just airbrushed it out, greenwashed it.
And with the block behind as well. So I mean, this sells the property, but it's not put it in its context.
This is the design and access statement rather than the sort of kind of elevation.
Yeah.
obviously, So.
If it was the only property in the area, it might be quite.
Because I mean, because this is, I presume this is a retaining wall as well for the slope.
Well, that doesn't look like a retaining wall to me. It's a fence.
Look, I think, are we?
No, this is a fence. Yes, this is a retaining wall here to retain this high level up.
I'm certainly saying I'm not satisfied by the fact that they have really taken into consideration in their technical thing that there are relationship with the fence, very steep walk down to the Harvest Moon.
Yes, in front of them. Yeah,
I'm expecting them to come with how are they
Yeah.
going to support, how are they going to preserve that
yeah.
slope?
Do we have an indication of how far this is away from the back of Harvest Moon Apartments? What is this? What is this distance here?
Not very much because it's not that big, that road down there.
I can't see the scale.
15, maybe 15 metres, I would say.
So the tops is 15
20
metres.
20,
And they've
20
got
maximum.
balconies there that, so even though these are higher, they are going to be effectively, potentially, looking down into the Harvest Moon apartments and things behind. And this is the balcony here, isn't it? So they haven't put on the retaining wall that they've got in that photograph. They haven't included all the landscaping, have they? They haven't, because this one had that wall there and another sort of raised bit here, and it was very obviously it was on a slope. And it yeah. Yeah. But
The elevations?
yes, can we have a look at the elevations, please? Oh.
So this
That's not-
is plot 1. This is the one on the King Edward Crescent side.
So the right-hand side one, okay.
So the northwest, the top elevation, that's facing towards the hotel. So the one next to it, the southeast, that's the one that's facing towards Harvest Moon. There's a small terrace, sort of mid-left of the drawing there, and the end of what's a larger terrace there. So this has two terraces facing towards, potentially two terraces facing towards Harvest Moon. The southwest, so that middle drawing there, that's the
To
one that
its
sort of
neighbour.
faces the neighbouring property and the Cornish hedgerow that separates them, and then the northeast side, which has got the long terrace, that's sort of towards King Edward Crescent and looking out across the bay from sort of that large terrace and the larger windows.
On that, which way, what does Longshore Apartments look at, which is immediately behind it?
So that would be the northwest, so that top left drawing, that's the one that's facing towards the hotel. So I guess that's the one that's facing most towards the Longshore Apartments.
Can I also put in, they've put in chimneys in that, so I've got concern then with emissions coming out from that chimney. Those chimneys.
Yes, I'll show you the site.
They've both got chimneys.
So you should be looking to extend.
Oh yes, sorry, yes. Can I have I propose a half-hour extension. Sandy second. We okay with that? Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Duncan. So thank you, Sandy. Yeah.
Okay, so the other one, so this is the one on the Dane Road side. So the southeast elevation, the top left drawing, that's the one that's facing the Harvest Moon Apartments. That's the one that has its main terrace is facing the Harvest Moon Apartments. The northwest, so the drawing top right, that's the one that's facing the hotel and the Longshore. So again, not much in the way of windows. I think that looks like a louvered window there, in fact, and a high level window. This is the side that would face Dane Road, and this is the side that would face the building that we've just looked at, plot 1, and the Cornish hedgerow. So again, not much overlooking between the two buildings. Maybe some concern about the overlooking of other properties.
No, that's quite right. It falls out.
We have a quite a useful, I don't know how interested in the floor plans you are, but we have quite a useful street section. So the drawing,
Oh look, they've put these 3 trees have materialised.
so the drawing at the top there, that's from that entrance road that we looked at from King Edward's Crescent. So that's a view of plot 1. Harvest Moon is here, Longshore is here, and the hotel behind. And then this is from sort of effectively in front of the Harvest Moon Apartments. So you've got the two plots, 1 and 2 behind, and then you've got Longshore behind that.
Well, it won't lose it, but it's about outlook, and it's going to be outlooking on that solid wall with little pokey windows on. So it's going to be faced with that, and then we've got the overlooking then onto Harvest Moon.
Harbour View, I think, look the other way. They've got all their entrances and their stairs and stuff.
Harvest Moon.
The Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
The views from Harvest Moon are on the other side.
Yeah.
Yes,
this is the back of the Harvest Moon Apartments.
But we don't know
entrances
what's
there,
behind those windows. I mean, they are proper windows there. They're not, effectively it's going to be overlooking that because it's going to be higher up potentially.
What have we got ground to object on? Because I don't like this.
Well, I'm seriously concerned about the steepness of the wall coming down to the Harvest Moon. They don't seem to have any information on the technical, they don't seem to have any information about how they are going to maintain that wall so it doesn't fall onto the Harvest Moon.
That might be building control and building control management.
That would have been it. Yeah. Have we, I know we lost the planning consent for this, but we have now lost then the green space, haven't we, between the Atlantic Hotel and the profile and the edge of the town. So it is now blurred together. But can we still express our concern that we can't?
Yeah, the inspector said it didn't matter.
Didn't matter, it was infill, wasn't it? Yeah.
I would say though, the inspector, sorry John, really can't see you. I would say that the inspector really focused on the settlement boundary. I don't think he had much to say about the landscape policies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but whatever, he didn't,
Yeah.
he didn't take them into account.
No,
We
he didn't.
raised them.
Can we bring that up again?
No, not so they can come to a conclusion, unfortunately.
Yeah, they said that they will, the principle of development is accepted, so.
I think the runoff.
The reason we had the boundary there was to protect the green
Would
space.
but would the size of development impact what, because this is in the neighbourhood plan, this is a valued landscape.
Yes.
So would
I
does
think
the size of the development,
Yeah.
a bungalow versus a
Yeah, that's what sort
13-storey
of us-
building, are going to have different effects on a valued landscape?
I think that's what I was trying to get at. You see, if it was a single-storied thing, I don't think I'd necessarily have, as much issue as having this quite large lump. It's sort of like, yeah.
I've got a real concern with the relationship with the, Harvest Moon, and the effect on the very steep wall
Yeah,
that is known to be unstable.
and structurally,
Structurally, it's known
the structural implications and things.
No, nothing in the plans that actually acknowledge that. I'm concerned about the water runoff,
Yeah,
because I think the water could
Down the
be
road.
slowed. It's not going to immediately go to the left or the right.
No,
It's straight down
it
onto the
does desperately that.
Harvest Moon.
And we need to know where those soakaways are. That, I mean, Southwest Water Light said that that's okay. I'll get to you in a minute, Nick, if I can. Because if they have put that there behind Harvest, whatever it's, then that's going to add weight, and that is slope instability. So that's not good at all. So when Duncan's finding that, what did you want to say, Nick?
My chief concern is the loss of outlook from the left-hand side of Longshore. It's going to have nothing, absolutely nothing, apart from the building in front of it. So it's lost everything.
There's going to be that issue of outlook, yes.
And possible it will be overlooked.
For Longshore.
Outlook from Longshore, yeah, because it's going to. It's only a really narrow road there. And Longshore runs across that corner where that's going, and that's not very wide.
There isn't a drainage statement, but there is this included in the design and access
Waterbank
statement.
rainwater and surface water drains will discharge to a new soakaway position, but we at least 5 metres away from the buildings. But we don't know what that is. So it suggests that's going to be above, because it'll be at the lowest point, obviously where you put your soakaway, which is going to be behind that wall, behind Harvest. So I do have a concern about that as to where the soakaway is going to be positioned on the site and the impact that's going to have on its southerly neighbouring property.
One positive is that it's saying it's going to have a Part M compliant level approach. So it's sort of kind of all level access to access it. Just
Have we got enough to make an objection? That sort of commentary?
you're asking. Really, I think.
Yeah. You proposing yes?
Well, no, I'm
Oh, no,
area.
that finger, no, okay. Nick?
I'll propose it.
Okay, I'll second. Vote. Yeah, so Joanne is abstaining, that's fine. That's fine. Wonderful. We'll see, I'm not sure how far we'll get with this, with the policy, but we can try on that one. Karen?
Is there anything that we can do to confirm this plan, this line that you drew? Is there anything that we can do to highlight that?
No, because
to
now,
make it
with the
more
latest government stuff, where they're pushing it down, the one thing they have said is that settlement boundaries no longer have any validity. I've just had a look, actually, it wasn't that, we didn't actually say this was valued landscape. although it used to be an area of special character but effectively what the government has now said in the new MPPF is that we've got this tilted balance, so basically if you're in a sustainable place, i.e. a home, a town, then you've got to have a really, really, really good reason for turning it down, settlement boundaries and all.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, can we move on? Because we need to get through this. Right, application 6, PA 25/04626, 4 Pavella Close, double-storey rear extension. Duncan.
Okay, Porvella Close. It's just a little north of Penmere Drive off Pentire Crescent. Let's have a look at the property itself. There you go, that's 4 Porvella. We'll have a look at as we always do, the location plan first. Yeah, it's quite a generous garden to the rear, I think you'd agree. The development is to the rear. The block plan helpfully shows us the increased footprint there, marked in green. Just going to compare the existing and proposed layout for you. Well, it says existing and proposed layout. It's actually the elevations and floor plans, isn't it? Right. So that's the existing layout. The proposed. I think if you look at this existing ground floor on the left-hand side, you'll get a good idea of how they're increasing the footprint and what they're doing with it. So you can see both the ground floor and first floor extend quite a way backwards. If you look at these two side elevations on the other side, on the right side of the drawing, you can appreciate the build backwards. It's currently 4 bedrooms and a bathroom at first floor level. 3 of those bedrooms, I think the extension allows for 1 more bedroom, and 3 of the bedrooms would have their own ensuite. Yeah, it looks like a hipped roof extension rather than a gable-ended one. Yeah, there's very little added fenestration, strangely, but so I don't think that they're really creating new views. It's just, they're sort of increasing the scale, mass and the footprint of the building by quite a lot.
Can we go back and look at the plan again to see where it's sited against its neighbours? Whether there's going to be an impact with shadowing over or outlook on the west side with its neighbour here, that could be something for the officer to check on. On the east side.
I don't think so. I think the sun comes round.
Yeah, but the second half of the day, that's going to be shadowing. If there is a window there, that's going to be shadowing on them from midday onwards from the west. So
that's a question to ask.
Yeah, for the planning officer. They haven't got a water thing for South West Water. They've got, and again, can we have all the G2 stuff in then, please, with all the solar panels and bird back boxes and stuff. Has anyone got any massive issues with this? No. Can I propose no objection pending those things, please?
So we're going to ask about overshadowing at number 5. We can encourage, but can't demand.
And they need to put in a runoff strategy for South West Water. That it needs to be.
South West Water's got a comment in anyway.
Oh, they have.
They have commented on that. Yeah. That there hasn't been one made.
Yeah. Sure, got that. So, no objection. Proposed by Sarah. Second.
Yeah, by Sandy. Yeah. Vote on that. You're abstaining against because they're all in Pentar. How rude. Wonderful. Right. Okay. Right. We're getting there. Right. Terms of reference and risk assessment update. Are we changing did we need to change our terms of reference sometime for something?
Well, I've got something in the wings. I'm going to wait for a quieter meeting. So we're not doing anything today, all right?
Okay, that's fine. Marvellous. Right, 12, reports and any associated recommendations from working parties? No, we haven't had anything sitting yet. We need to set up a date, don't we, and put it out there.
This is the parking working party, obviously. So I still need to, I think it was an action from the last meeting about emailing the wider council and asking for, because I think people in this room have said who would like to be on the parking working party.
Right, okay.
Well, it looks like it's going to fall to me, although I wasn't at the meeting, to email out.
In theory, we ought to be commenting on this new car park they're putting over in behind Cliff Road, which is actually very good. You also need a terms of reference for this working party, unless we've got one. I don't believe that we have. I think we've got terms of reference for
If you could email it to me, because I've got terms of reference for others, but not for this.
No, maybe we just didn't have a terms
Could
of
you have a
reference.
look?
Yeah, I'll see.
It got moved and it got made last year, didn't it? Last term.
I thought there was terms of reference when I started at the council.
Yeah, I think we might have set it up before we got more rigorous about having terms of reference for working parties. But effectively, you agree the terms of reference at the first meeting anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, our terms of reference for this committee can sort of kind of be transposed onto it, but I think the town clerk will want a terms of reference quite soon. It's only this committee that has to agree. It doesn't have to go to full council or anything, because the working party reports to this committee. So it's just this committee has to be happy with what your remit is and how wide or not it is. Whether it's strategic stuff across the town, or whether it could involve more local stuff as individuals have concerns about parking on their roads. That kind of thing needs to be ironed out, I think.
We tended to get thrown anything that actually resembled a road, didn't we, before?
Yeah.
TROs and the
We even managed to get one outside our own parish the last time.
I know there's a concern of parking on Cleveland Road at the moment, which might or might not be something that the parking working party would look at. But I'll send that email out.
And if Joanna, you're happy to rummage around in your...
Yeah, I'll rummage around in my things.
In your folders.
And
Wonderful.
I think we need to set up the neighbour. I don't think we need to meet every month, but I think we need to set up the neighbourhood plan working party.
Yeah, and if there's anybody new interested in it, then they need to look through and, Okay, right.
So, are you saying that you want me to email the wider council?
Yes,
for
so I propose
expressions of
that.
Interest? Yeah.
Propose, seconder. Nick, vote. Yay. Awesome.
So I'll do expressions of interest for both working parties, okay?
Great, thank you. Nick?
Can you put me on the neighbourhood plan one, please?
I'll email it to you.
Sorry?
We didn't even ask if there was anybody in the room that wanted to go on the ones. We only did the parking working party last time, not the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps.
Same thing for the neighbourhood plan then as well, from the...
Yeah, well, I'll email the wider council. Are there people in this room who, what Nick
Yes,
says?
I'll be on,
Yes,
I'll be
please.
on the neighbourhood plan, yes. And
So Nick
Joanna,
would like to be on that. Joanna, Sarah would like to be on that.
do you want to have a mosey into that? we did tend to meet during the day though, not in the evening.
Well, we'll have to shift around if you wanted to join in, because it's the more the merrier, really. The other thing we need to do at some stage is to set up and I think it's probably too early, but the sort of governing community type. I've forgotten what it's called. A steering group. We need to set that up again. And that's from the worthy of well, we just went through thing. Well, they're interested. And effectively change membership if people got more and more interest or less and less interested. They do tend to meet in the evenings. So.
Okay. So I'll propose for the neighbourhood plan 2 then.
Yeah, so I'll send emails out for both
Seconder.
working parties.
Nick, vote. Yep. all I have on that one?
I've got a list of this. We've had Margaret to that as well, 'cause I know Margaret.
Oh, yeah, Margaret will be.
Certainly want to be.
Yeah, I'm sure. Brilliant. Having an eye on the watch. Right. Financial statement. You haven't been spending off. Awesome. Other correspondence.
No other
Awesome.
correspondence.
Weekly decisions list. I didn't think there was much of note on it, really. Duncan, no, I didn't think.
There's one refusal right at the end.
Well, there's a couple of refusals at the end, weren't there? Let's just have a quick look. Approved, closed, granted, refused. The garage store rear of 93 Tower Road wanted its certificate for lawful development to propose for change for a garage to storage space to a self-contained living accommodation. That was refused. We had some withdrawn.
There's one right at the bottom, 54 Penmere Drive. That I can't remember which one that was.
First floor extension over existing garage to provide bedroom and ensuite without
We
compliance
didn't
with condition
object to
2.
that.
No.
We didn't object to that, so Cornwall Council have refused that.
Okay, that's fine.
I haven't looked at the reasons why. Otherwise, they were all.
Yeah.
That was a 5-day protocol. They asked us to change our thing and gave us a reason why they wanted to turn it down.
Yeah.
And we changed our mind, didn't we? We agreed with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 5-day protocol.
Yeah.
That's the 5-day protocol,
Yeah.
so we've agreed with
Yeah.
their decision to refuse it.
Okay,
Right.
then, and then the last thing was the modification order to add a footpath at Whipsey.
Yeah, that's a.
Are we going to manage to do this in a couple of minutes? Awesome. Yeah.
I've got something to say as well, or something different.
Okay.
It's just kind of bizarre, really. This is a consultation that goes back to it was to. Sorry, just let me put that on one page. It was a plan to have a footpath around right along the top of Whipsey area. And this goes back to September 2015, so long before I was ever here. Cornwall Council decided having a footpath along there would be a bad idea. And so they have let us know this. So that's all that is. It's an information item, and they decided that that would not be a good place to put a footpath now.
That's if the land is still there.
I think.
It's in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally,
Well, even they've got it there in the air.
yeah, and finally, we are likely, she's not 100% confirmed, but we're likely to have Lisa Solly doing a presentation, a 5:30 presentation at the next meeting. And it's for I think it's for a 9-house development. So I will obviously let you know as soon as I know. I'll let you know, but it's quite likely that we'll have a 5:30 start for our meeting on the 23rd.
So.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure, but I have a horrible feeling I have bookings on that night, so I may not be here. Obviously, being the busiest time of the year for me, it might be a little bit tricky.
Okay, fine.
Let me know when
Yeah.
the meeting requests go out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joanna.
Different issue. Went to the subcommittee on the Riverside Avenue development. Very disappointing. Sandy came along as well. He pointed out to them that if you start digging out bedrock, God knows what's going to happen. They took absolutely no notice. I went in with my 5 minutes bill, and then I'm not allowed to comment. They didn't discuss any of the points that we'd raised, apart from the wall. There were a couple of councillors who got quite keen on the 100-year-old wall, but other than that, and they just said, we can't think of a reason for turning it down. The officer indicated that the neighbourhood plan had no value whatsoever. He also misquoted from the study. I didn't want to attack him there, but I think I should have done, really. So they didn't. I don't think they gave us a fair hearing. I was very cross, but that's where we are. It's democracy for you. So they passed it. So basically, they're going to come along. They say they're only going to take out a small bit of the wall. I will believe that when I see them. If they're digging out 50 cubic sort of meters of bedrock to put this house that is then going on to the King Charles III footpath, none of that was discussed. It was extraordinary. I am very cross. I'm very bitter, but that's what happens.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John. I think
Well, no. Okay, on that sad note, date of next meeting then is the 23rd of July. And thank you very much if you've been watching. Good. And thank you, committee, for being here, being quorate. Thank you. Right, are we off then?